Okay, well, with his thoughts on the fall session of Parliament, we're now joined by the Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer. Mr. Scheer, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
Listen, your party had a caucus meeting yesterday. We heard Mr. Poilievre say that Conservatives are willing to work with the government to make this a productive session. I wonder, what will guide your party's support?
Well, first and foremost, it's important to point out that the Liberals have basically conceded that Conservatives were right. We were right to fight the carbon tax. We were right to talk about the crime wave that Liberal policies caused. We were right to talk about the border and the housing crisis, because in order to get elected, Liberals had to basically copy and paste and steal a lot of Conservative ideas. So what we're saying is, hey, when you do that, if you're going to lift something from a Conservative platform, we'll support you. We hope voters will eventually vote for the real thing, because we mean it, we believe in it, and we suspect that Liberals are just paying lip service to some of this and did just to get elected, and slowly but surely they'll revert back to their old Liberal ways. But we're starting off this session in a spirit of nonpartisanship, and we will support those bills that lower taxes, that get government out of the way of energy projects, of home building, and that actually secure our borders. When they go back to their old Liberal ways and they try to just expand the size of government, give government more control over the economy and spend and tax even more than Justin Trudeau, then we're going to shine a light on that and highlight that for Canadians.
Well, you use the word spend, and of course one of the big budget items will literally be the budget whenever that happens sometime this fall. You know, it makes me wonder whether or not your party is going to support a budget that has a substantial deficit. You know, bear in mind that the last economic update had the deficit sitting at about $60 billion. This fall's budget could be even higher. The C.D. Howe Institute saying with defense investments alone, it could be topping over $90 billion. Would you be willing to vote for a budget that had that substantial of a deficit?
Well, we believe that Mark Carney should be held to his own promises. He put in writing, he made a written promise to the Canadian people in the form of his platform to have a much smaller deficit than what's being speculated. You know, certainly much smaller than the 80 or 100 billion dollars that's being talked about right now. He then made a promise in the throne speech that he would cap spending. He blew through that promise in the spring already, but you know, we believe it's fair to say, okay, Mr. Carney, this is the promise you made Canadians. This is the promise you made in the throne speech. Were you lying? Were you being disingenuous? Did you have the king come all the way over from London to read a throne speech that was completely phony? So you know, those deficit numbers matter. They matter because when the government borrows billions and billions of dollars, they have to compete with everyone else who has to borrow money, and whether it's a business looking to expand or buy new equipment, or whether it's a homeowner looking to renew a mortgage. When government goes out and gobbles up billions and billions of dollars out of the economy, money being lent to the government means that it's not available to homeowners and business owners. It has a real negative effect on the economy. It also puts pressure on inflation and on tax hikes. So we're going to be very vigilant on that, and at the same time, we believe that the government doesn't need to spend money on things like consultants. It doesn't need to spend money on a housing bureaucracy that's not actually going to build new homes. So we'll see what the Liberals put in that budget. We're going to be fighting for some kind of fiscal responsibility after 10 years of Justin Trudeau's massive deficits. And if Mark Carney comes in with an even bigger deficit than Justin Trudeau, it means he's already broken one of his key promises in his platform.
Okay, but this is a minority parliament, and if you don't like the spending or the investments, as Mark Carney would put it, you know, you could work to bring this government down. You could rally with the other opposition parties. Would that deficit number be a line in the sand to trigger a non-confidence vote for you?
You know, it's day one of the fall session, and you're already talking about when it might end. What I can tell you is that if Mark Carney is serious about working with us, then we hope that he'll take our ideas seriously. We hope that he'll have meaningful consultations with Conservative MPs and with the Finance Committee. We hope that he will end the practice of Justin Trudeau started of massive costs on things like consultants and on all kinds of wasteful spending that Conservatives will be highlighting. Conservatives are going to be highlighting this wasteful spending to show Canadians that it is possible to have fiscal responsibility without affecting core services for Canadians, just by ending a lot of the frivolous and really foolish spending that the government embarks on. $13 billion for housing bureaucracy. I mean, that hasn't worked for the last 10 years when Justin Trudeau tried that. So it's looking like Mark Carney is turning out to be just another Liberal. He's not very special. He promised Canadians that he was some kind of special guy that you could hire in a crisis. He promised to move at unimaginable speeds. Here we are in September. Nothing really has gotten done. And rather than having the fastest growing economy, which is what he promised in the G7, we have the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. So we're very disappointed at the lack of action over the course of the summer, and we're very pessimistic about the numbers that we're hearing as we do approach that budget, which now he's basically announced that he's delaying now into November. So not a great signal. You usually don't punt off things that you're not that you're proud of. You usually try to delay things that you're not proud of. But we'll keep watching.
Well, and we are waiting official word as to whether or not it will be in October or November. But listen, Mr. Scheer, before we're done, very quickly, the government House Leader called your party out today, saying you were irresponsible for holding up the business of government last year with heckling and procedural motions, some of which, it was thanks to your deep knowledge of parliamentary procedure. Will your party rely on those tactics in this parliament?
Well, I just have to correct Mr. McKinnon. He has it completely backwards. The Speaker ruled that the government must comply with a lawful order of Parliament to dig into Liberal corruption, where hundreds of millions of dollars flowed to Liberal-friendly board members. It was a massive scandal, and the government chose to have Parliament basically in a gridlock rather than come clean. So as long as there aren't any privilege motions, as long as there aren't any cases where Liberal ministers get caught in corruption scandals that they then refute to comply with the Speaker, then I can say we won't have those types of debates. But if they go back to their old Liberal ways, then it'll be up to the government on how to respond to that. What I'm saying is that if the Liberals sincerely take Conservative ideas out of our platform, put them in legislation, obviously we're going to support things that we campaigned on and that we have already supported in the past. So there's definitely a path to getting things done, and we'll see what the government House Leader does with that.
Andrew Scheer, always appreciate the forward to more in this session. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.